What's up, Thad Brown here with you. It is the Buffalo Bills Game Day Recap edition of BKL Nightly. We are live after the Bills handle the Panthers 40-9. A lot of good stuff to get to from the Bills today. This was expected to be a get-right game. In many ways, it was. Now, that doesn't mean that this was the dominant performance that 40-9 indicates. In fact, when in the annals of 40-9 games in the history of the NFL, this will probably go down as one of the least impressive for a number of reasons. We're going to get into all that. Caleb Carr is going to join me. We're also going to have post-game press conferences with Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, perhaps more James Cook, who he'd probably still be running if they let him stay in the game any longer. Just decimated that Panthers defense. So this was, at the beginning, at the top, this was the kind of game that more or less exactly what the Bills needed. They needed a game where they could feel good again. They needed a game to prove to maybe themselves, certainly to the rest of the football world, that this was still an elite team. This was still a championship caliber team. And the final score says that. You don't need to go past 40-9 to have any doubt about how good the Bills were in this game, or at least how much better they were than the Panthers. But all that said, I really come out of this game when you talk about the Bills as a Super Bowl contender, because that's all that matters. Beating Carolina on the road, that's nice. No one woke up at the start of training camp at the end of July and said, you know what? I really hope the Bills beat the Panthers this year. That's not what the goal is for this team. That's not what anyone is thinking about. That's not where anyone in Western New York, whether it's in the organization or just as a fan, wants this team to be. The goal for this team is to make the Super Bowl and win it, but one step at a time. And even though the Bills win this game 40-9, I walk away from it, if anything, maybe a little less optimistic about Buffalo's chances to win a Super Bowl. Now, the primary reason for that is Ed Oliver and the injury. Because the team on the field, the guys who played, they did more than enough to be impressive, to create positive feelings about where this team is going. But if Ed Oliver's bicep injury is as serious as some people fear, and because he basically came right out of the game, there was no, hey, let's check him out. There was no, let's, work it out a little bit. There was no moving his arm around on the sideline. There was just, this happened and you're out of the game. I mean, the Bills didn't even start with questionable to return. There was just Ed Oliver's out. He got hurt. He walked to the sideline. Go to the locker room. You're done for the day. Generally, when that happens, the result is a serious long-term injury. Not always, but if you want to talk about 50-50, which side of 50 does that land on? Most of the time, when a guy leaves a game that fast, it's because trainers and or doctors examine the injury and say, yeah, that's bad, and you need to get out. And a torn bicep, if it is torn, because it was a bicep injury, if Ed Oliver has a torn bicep, that's the kind of injury that probably ends his season. So even though the Bills won 40-9, even though the Bills were impressive on the field in many ways, if Ed Oliver is not going to be a part of this team going forward for the rest of this season, then yeah, I walk away from this season less encouraged about their Super Bowl chances than I was before the day began. And part of it, too, is the way the game went on the field, too. This was not all about the Ed Oliver injury. As 40-9 games go, like I said, this was not exactly the most impressive in the world. There are things that the Panthers helped out with. Andy Dalton might have played the worst game of his career. So look, yeah, the Bills won 40-9. Everybody feels good. Everybody should feel good. But when it comes to the long-term situation for the Bills, if anything, I might walk away a little less optimistic about where they're at. All right, let's bring in Caleb Carr joining us right now. Oh, and apparently we're not going to bring in Caleb Carr. You just got trumped by Josh Allen. Let's go to Josh Allen right now, buddy. Here we go at the podium after this game.
Got to be better myself in that first half. I just felt like wasn't getting myself into a rhythm. I wasn't trusting my feet. I was forcing a couple things. A couple things just didn't go our way. So I got to be better in that aspect. But again, found a way to. I think we were pretty good on third downs today. Move the sticks, and I think still there's a lot to clean up, which is the exciting thing.
Josh, where would you guys be? I mean, obviously doing well, but James has really carried your offense really for a little bit of time now. Let's talk about the importance of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the efficiency that he's had, how many rushes did he have today? 19. I mean, he's playing outstanding. I think the more times we get the ball in his hands, the better that we're going to be. Same thing with 10 with Khalil. Just again getting the ball in his hands and letting him make some plays for us. But yeah, I mean, I love handing it off and getting to throw my hands up from 50 yards out. You know.
Josh, you referenced some of the struggles in the passing game there in the first half. Obviously, the score is the score, and it's lopsided in the second, so the stats kind of get skewed. But what is your concern level with moving the ball through the air there, particularly in the first 2 quarters?
Not concerned at all. I think if I can go back and change a couple things, trust my feet, get through my progressions, wouldn't even be talking about this. But yeah, I think it's an easy cleanup, and again, it's just trusting the guys out there, trusting my feet, and put the ball where it needs to be.
What do you mean when you say don't trust your feet? Can you maybe put that in layman's terms for somebody who's never...
Yeah, I mean, understanding the concept, if it's a 3-step or a 5-step, just trusting it, and again, just being a little more settled early on. You know, just again, first game back since the bye, just not trusting my feet a little bit and getting off things maybe a little too quickly, and just get back in the swing of things.
What causes that?
Again, a little hype, getting back on the football field, a little eagerness to go make a play. So yeah, I mean, just letting the game come to me and again, just trusting what's out there.
Why has this team been so good coming off the bye?
I think it's the way that our guys have handled it. I think obviously from the top, just making sure that we're practicing the right way. Obviously coming off 2 losses, it's been lingering with us. So I wanted to come out here and put our best foot forward, and I think tonight we did that.
Josh, do you feel, I know you're coming off a 2 games, any win would be a good win, does it feel like this was kind of a get-right day for you guys as a team as a whole?
I mean, the way that we won, for sure. I think, again, the exciting part is that there is a lot to clean up and a lot to improve on, and really to be excited about where this team can go.
Josh, the defense's performance today, I mean, it kind of made it easy for you in some ways. You started to drive at the 1-yard line. Just their overall effort, what did you think of it?
It was unbelievable. They felt like they had something to prove, going out there and forcing some turnovers, giving us a couple short fields. One, we didn't capitalize on it, but that one on the 1-yard line, obviously AJ Epinesa makes a great play, and that's the standard that we have for ourselves, and that's what we expect every time we step on the field.
Let's talk about, again, the defense, the way you ran the ball, and you no doubt is an elite passer, right? But how does games like this turn into a big game?
I mean, when you got James Cook, just let him cook.
The success you guys had running the ball early, did you just notice the difference that it made in terms of keeping them off balance and opening things up for, especially that first drive of the second half, the way Shakir was able to get open underneath?
Yeah, anytime you can run the ball that well, I mean, it's going to do things for your offense. Quick game, play action game, nakeds, and then we got to. That second half is how we feel like we should play. The first half, running the ball well, but wasn't to my standard in terms of how we want to attack it through the air. And again, a lot to learn on and improve on.
Josh, a little personal accolade. Coming the first NFL quarterback, 46 games with a rushing touchdown, passing touchdown, broke Cam Newton's record. It was obviously big around here. What does that feel like?
It's cool. Just finding a way to win. That's all we're trying to do.
Josh, can you talk about, your big play with Khalil Shakir? What did you see coverage-wise and, make that play?
Yeah, they brought some pressure into a 5-man protection. We were sliding the other way, so typically in football, you want to throw it into the blitz because there's more room there. And then you see the great effort from 10, but if you go back and watch that play, Elijah Moore, he was coming from the other side, making a really key block, allowing Khalil to spring free, and that's the effort that, again, it's not going to get talked about in the box score, but 18, Elijah Moore makes that play there, and I got to be better for 18. I missed him on a deep out earlier in the game, but for him to not care about that, to put his head down, go make an extra block for a guy, speaks a lot of the character that he has. Thank you, guys.
All right, Josh Allen coming off the Bills 40-9 win. He did not have to do a whole lot today. I think he made enough fantasy managers happy with the 2 sneak touchdowns. But Josh Allen, 163 through the air, 12 of 19. Did have a touchdown pass, but really it was Khalil Shakir doing most of the work there. And due respect to Josh Allen on Elijah Moore, I just rewatched the Khalil Shakir touchdown play. Like Elijah Moore does chip a guy that's chasing Shakir. Shakir's already 2 yards in front of the guy. I know from Josh Allen's point of view, it looks like the defender's right next to Shakir and Moore blocks him off the play. But for those of us who have the TV angle on the sideline, that guy's not catching Khalil Shakir. Maybe, you never know. I mean, it doesn't hurt. But look, when you win 40-9, everybody did something great. And this is how it goes after a game. All right, Caleb Carr is now here. I've had more than enough time to kind of initially react to this game. 49 Bills win. They go to 5-2. Give me your initial thoughts on this one.
My initial thoughts are, yes, it was sloppy. There were some sloppy things. I walked in right towards the end, right before we took to Josh Allen. So I heard a little bit of what you talked about with Ed Oliver, and there's definitely concern about what the defense is going to look like without him, because there was concern when he was out earlier in the year. But I do think that you need to walk away from this game thinking positively, because of the fact that you lost 2 games that you should not have lost. You lost against the Patriots, you lost against the Falcons, 2 games that really the Bills lost themselves. I thought obviously the Patriots and the Falcons both played well in those games, but the Bills played very, very bad in both of those games. So although it's a big win and it was kind of sloppy, it's a win, and they went out and they got the job done. They did what they were supposed to do, and I think that is, coming out the bye week, you have to take away some positive. James Cook, as always, looked elite. I think, it just kind of went with every time James Cook does well and the run game is going well, this offense looks incredible. And it's obvious that he is the guy that they want to continue to go to.
Speaking of James Cook, here he is right now.
Did you get a sense early on that you guys were going to have this kind of game on offense? It seemed like the first few carries.
I mean, yeah, that's what we hopped on all week, just starting fast and, setting our identity as a football team, and I felt like we did that early often.
James, it looked like there was a pointed effort to get you out on the edges of the defense. A lot of pitch plays today. Was that kind of part of the plan, to get you out on the edges?
I mean, we had a lot of, schemes in the plan today. I just would work today, and, we took advantage of it.
You mentioned identity, James. How would you just describe what this offensive identity wants to be this season?
Be whatever we want to be, just on us. We just got to keep that edge and keep working hard, like I said, and, go back to work on Monday, a big one, and get to work.
There's like a unique running style. What do you attribute that running style?
I would say smooth, just being patient and, just seeing it and hitting it.
How many times do you think you got hit today?
I feel like I could go again, so, I don't feel like I got hit.
All right, so that being said, 19 carries. It felt like a game where you could have had more than that. Is it frustrating that they keep taking you out for 2-3 plays at a time?
I mean, no. Because I trust the guys that's behind me. We all work together, so, just can't be selfish. You got to let those guys eat. When my time comes, just take advantage of it.
You guys as an offense, what did it mean for the defense to get the stops that they did, especially early on? You guys had to settle for a couple of field goals.
Yeah. Like we said, they got the stops. You just got to take advantage of it and score a touchdown or a point.
You had just the safety there on the 64-yarder. Were you thinking sideline all the way, or did you think about cutting it inside there on the last cut?
I was thinking touchdown.
What did Coach Brady see call that counter? Because that was just a beautiful play call.
I just think it was the defense that they was in. They blitzed the corner off the edge, and I guess the whole defense just wiped out in the green grass.
What do you think of performance when you have both sides like this? Not only to get over the 2-game losing streak, but going into the Chiefs game to give the Chiefs something?
Could be real special, It's on how we play, like I said, and like I said, we're gonna get back to work on Monday, get back to the attention to details, and work hard.
Did they do anything different today? Or what you saw on film of these guys?
No, not no difference. They showed every look that we had watched on film, and it shows today.
You can feel it. You can cut back.
Yes, sir.
You can cut back and make big plays.
Of course.
Focus was it? You lose 2, you had the bye week. Think about it. What was kind of feeling in the locker room?
I mean, we all be ourselves, We've been here before. Coming off a bye week, it's just about how you turn it around and get better.
All right, thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ack.
All right, there is James Cook, who had a career day today. Officially, I just want to make sure I say the exact number right. 216, I think, is what it was. 216 on 19 carries. He averaged 11.4 a rush today. I mean, there were only a couple receivers who had more than one catch who were better off than that, per play. 11.4 is just laughably good. And, Caleb was talking about it before we went to James Cook meeting with the media. Carolina's strength in this game, both sides of the ball, was the run game. They were number 1 in the NFL offensively in rushing success rate. I think they were number 7 in EPA per rush allowed defensively. And the Bills really blasted both of those numbers right out of the water. One thing about Carolina coming in is that teams had a heavy percentage of runs to the outside against the Panthers in general. The Bills clearly saw that and wanted to exploit it. You heard the question from Chris Brown, play-by-play announcer, about going outside on all the pitches early. It's something the Bills don't normally do with their run game. They'll show it occasionally, but it has not been something that they have relied upon, certainly not as much as they did in this game. They're a little more of a duo inside zone and outside zone, let James Cook cut back type of team. So this was not a hard study. You see that everybody else is doing it to the Panthers. You do it too. Their defensive tackles are pretty good. So that's, I think, the reason why most teams try to go outside, and another part of why the Bills did today as well. So give both Joe Brady credit for the scout and, being ready with that game plan, and James Cook and the offensive line executing it. I mean, look, there are things that I am going to nitpick about this game for the Bills. One of them is not going to be James Cook. No. That guy continues to get better and better and better. And now we've got a career high rushing game. My fantasy team, I got one of them that just took an absolute beating from Ford today. 216 and 2 on the ground. Didn't even need him through the air. And he was just absolutely electric. Had the, big 64-yard run, which, look, James Cook is making that play, but that was also Joe Brady's scheme win. That was where he had all the X's and O's, and sometimes it just happens. It looked like the Panthers are coming with a little bit of a blitz. You set guys in, you find a hole, and 4 is gone. And that's, yes, part of it is Joe Brady, but part of it is having that running back that can hit a home run from anywhere. And we've seen it over and over and over the last 2 seasons about where James Cook has developed to in that particular area.
Give credit to the O-line on that play as well. I mean, obviously, like you said, Joe Brady scheming, but the O-line did their job. They got it done. James Cook just looked, to me, it felt like every single time he touched the ball, even for plays that only resulted in like a 2 or 3 yard gain, there were a handful that I can remember where, like it seemed like there were a lot of tosses to him today as well. But there were a handful where one of them, I believe it was in the second quarter, tossed to Cook, and he's running. There's like 3 guys in the backfield. Looks like he's going to get tackled for like a 2 or 3 yard loss. Cuts in between them and finds 2 yards.
I know that play. Yeah, I thought the same thing.
And it's not a big play. It's not, obviously, you're only getting 2. I think it was on second down, if I remember correctly.
I think it was going in. It was like near the 30, maybe 30, 25, like just outside the red zone, pitched towards the near side from the TV angle. And it looked like there were 3 guys that were on him for a 1 yard loss. And somehow he slithers through and gets 3.
Right in between.
And you're so right. As much as the 64 yarder is a big part of what he does well, that play as a rookie, just goes down right there.
Yep.
And now he's got the contact balance, the strength, and the ability, to make that work much better than what he is as a rookie.
Every time he touched the ball, even if it was just a 2 or 3 yard gain, he said in the press conference, smooth. That's how he describes his game. That's how he looks out there. He just looks smooth, going between the tackles, finding the gap between the defenders, not going down easy. Even if he's getting touched, he's grabbing an extra 2 to 3 yards, like every single time. There were maybe only a couple runs that he had today that I was like, he didn't see it well. Every other run, he's seen the field great. Obviously, you need to have, like you said, the contact balance. You need to be balanced. You need to be able to lower your shoulder. You need to be fast. You need to be able to make that juke move, make that spin move. You need to be elusive. But one of the biggest parts about being a running back is having that good vision to find the hole and hit the hole. And he just, he was looking like Superman out there. Amazing vision. It was insane what he was doing on the field. Just a great day. But you do have to give credit to the O-line too, because they looked elite today as well.
And they've been that all year.
Yes.
And they've been that going back to last year too. They're one of the best offensive lines. The combo right now of Josh Allen, offensive line, James Cook, is what this team is going to be riding, going forward. This is what drives the offense. This is what scores all the, this is why you lift all them damn weights. This is why you score all those damn points, because the Bills have, top 5-ish top 3, I think, with the O-line and the quarterback at those positions. It makes it, such a base, such a, when you have that foundation, you're going to be able to do a lot of good things on offense. All right, I want to move off of that a little bit and let's talk about the rest of the offense a little bit and kind of this game as a whole offensively. Because, look, there were, Khalil Shakir had the great touchdown catch and run. And he had a nice day, 6 for 88, most of that on the one play. But Khalil Shakir did what Khalil Shakir does, and I think once a month you can get that kind of explosive play out of him. Outside of that, the passing game was okay-ish. And, Josh Allen talked about it a little while ago in his press conference. He talked about getting off more or less the scheme or the structure too quickly. The words he used were hyped, eagerness, and then not trusting what he's seeing. And I want to spin that into what I think he's really talking about, which is not trusting his protection, which I don't know why you get to that spot in Josh Allen. Now, look, the last 2 games he played, Atlanta and New England, the protection was not as good. The defensive lines were better, and the protection was not as good. But to me, I mean, the sack he takes in the second quarter for 16 yards that really made Matt Prater have to work hard in the field goal, that's like rookie year Josh Allen.
Yeah,
and it's not good. And it's not, I don't know how much of that is Josh Allen with the out of control chaos Josh type thing when it comes to that. Like, I don't want to put it all on him as acting like he did when he was rookie. I want to put it on the guy now who understands protections and what he should be seeing, what he should be doing as a quarterback, not hanging in the pocket long enough, because that was a play where watching it the first time, it felt like he had time to sit there a little while. He didn't have to go out and scramble. Now, and maybe not, and let me back off a little bit, maybe it's not the protection, maybe it's the guys downfield, and I've seen that a lot over the last few years, that there just isn't options in structure offensively. And so Josh feels like he has to get out of the pocket to make something happen, to basically, like, imagine it's a snow globe, right? Or maybe one of those little, I don't know if you were a kid, it's like a water-filled game where you kind of got to like shake it. Right. Yeah. So if the little ball isn't going into the basket like you want it to, you shake it, right? Because that's the only way you're going to make it work. Like, the ball is slowly drifting away from the basket and you're like, no, and you shake it because that's the only thing you got left. That's what Josh is doing on these scrambles. He's basically saying, I got nothing downfield, so let me shake it up and try and do something. Mm-hmm. And while that does work a lot because Josh Allen is awesome, there are a number of times where he can sit in the pocket and just let things develop a little further and he'd be fine. This is the concern I have with the offense. And that's why when I look at 40-9, like, it was awesome, but it was a one-time James Cook touchdown. It was a 1-yard field. It was a 50-yard Khalil Shakir catch and run where Carolina took bad angles. And then the game was over. So there wasn't a whole lot of offense in this game where, other than James Cook doing his thing, where I looked at it and said, wow, that looks different. I like this passing game a lot. These things are improved. There just was not a lot of that. And without looking at the film, 17 to me seems to be a part of the problem, not number one of the problems, but one of the problems. And this passing game did not look a whole lot more improved than it was when we saw them in Atlanta or against New England.
Yeah. Speaking of Atlanta and New England, I can't remember what game it was, but there was one game that afterwards, you, me, and Rachel all sat down and we were looking at one of the plays where we thought that if he would have just sat there for just a second more, not even, he would have potentially had a guy. And it was blowing up on social media. I think it was the New England play. Might
have been Atlanta, but it was one of the two. Yeah.
And we sat down and we talked about that play specifically, but there are tons of other plays over those 2 games and a couple plays tonight where you're right. It just feels like he's getting out of the pocket way too soon. And I get it. I get the wanting to get out, wanting to make something happen. Maybe if I get out, I can make a guy miss and then I can pick up 5 yards with my legs. Maybe if I get out, then Keon Coleman, who has actually done, one of the few things that Keon Coleman has done great in his career so far has been seeing that Josh Allen is getting out the pocket and moving out of structure and getting open for him and then making a play for Josh Allen. That's happened quite a few times. So I get the thought of, like, if I get out, if I make something happen, like, I can maybe make something happen, but it gets to a point where you have to trust the guys on the line and you have to trust as much as we talk about how the playmakers are not up to what they should be, are not up to par, if you're Josh Allen, you still need to at least give them a chance. You have to at least give them a chance. And every time you get out of the pocket, yeah, it could break something, but it could also result in a 16-yard sack like it did. And the other thing about that sack is I thought he I don't like that he got out early, but I thought, okay, it's third down. You're trying to make a play happen. You have to get out. Maybe, like you said, shake things up. But it got to a point where he was just continuing to stay there and continuing to make it. At a certain point, just throw the ball away. At a certain point, you cannot take that 16-yard sack. Luckily, Matt Prater makes it, and it's fine. But you cannot take that big of a sack there, because if that's a missed field goal, I mean, I'm not going to say it changes the game because it was 49, so
Right.
It doesn't change the game. But like
at the time, it does.
At the time, it does. And if you're playing if you're playing a much better team, next week in Kansas City, if he does something like that and Matt Prater misses that field goal, that game flips like on a dime all of a sudden.
That's what I'm talking about with this. When I say that I come out of this looking at the Bills maybe less optimistically as a championship team, you think about all the things that, not all the things, but at least the number of things that the Bills did not do very well in this game. And you would expect a team like the Chiefs. Now, maybe the Chiefs lay an egg on Monday night and we'd look differently at them by the time that game happens, next weekend. But regardless, right this second, you're 100% right. The things that the Bills got away with against Carolina today, you don't think they get away with as well, against the Chiefs next week.
Or even just against a playoff caliber team.
Tampa Bay. Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Any of them.
Indianapolis,
right. Carolina's playing very well. Give Carolina some credit. They are playing very
Before
well
this
right
week,
now.
yeah.
Before this week, but I don't think they're making the playoffs. They're not a playoff caliber team at this point.
Let's talk about that for a second, too. And before we get in, we're going to flip over to the defense and kind of hit a few guys on defense who I think, for the most part, they had big games. Whether they played well, I want to look at film and review, but certainly had big games. But another reason why I'm kind of lukewarm on this Bills game is that when you look at the number of things that Andy Dalton did that seemed like they were ridiculous for a guy who's been in the league for 13, 15 seasons, whatever it was. I mean, the fumble early, good play by Greg Rousseau, but that's one where you would expect the veteran quarterback to be a little more protective of the football. He missed the throw on third down in the next drive that led to a field goal that you probably expect him to make. The throw by the end of the half, the one to Ted McMillan over the middle where Shaq Thompson's in coverage. The reason he throws that is because he looks up and he's like, wait a minute, I have my number one receiver on their 30-year-old middle linebacker. I'm going to throw that. You got to put that in a spot where your receiver can catch it. I mean, virtually anything in Ted McMillan's catch radius is probably 6, and he missed it. And then, taking the sack at the end of the half to cost Carolina the field goal. I mean, 19-6, it wouldn't have made that much of a difference, but still, this was a game. I think Carl Jones posted it on X at halftime, and I kind of, reposted, retweeted it, requoted it, whatever. He said that, look, the Bills defense is doing some things right, but Andy Dalton is playing rough. And to me, when the game still mattered, if you assess why the Panthers only had 3 points, to me, the lion's share of it, the greater share of it, was Andy Dalton playing like garbage more than it was the Bills defense playing well. Both happened. Don't get me wrong. The Bills were making plays, and we're going to talk all up and down about the different players for Buffalo who had good games. But even for a backup quarterback who's on his last legs, clearly, you expect Andy Dalton to do a whole lot more better than, or a whole lot more better. Grammar is post-game shows sometimes go away. A whole lot better than what Carolina got in this game. And again, Andy Dalton plays a good game. The Panthers are probably still not winning. It was 40-9. But a big chunk of 40-9, Caleb, was Andy Dalton just playing like garbage.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with you that Andy Dalton's game was not even, it was almost laughable. Like, there were times where I was like, what is he doing? Like, there were plays, like you said, where I was like, wow, good job by the Bills defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're stepping up, especially in the run game. But obviously that's not Andy Dalton. But there were times where, like, the defense was making plays. There were a couple plays where they got to Andy Dalton, whether it be a sack or the forced fumble, where I thought it was more of a good defensive play than a bad Andy Dalton play. But to your point, even if, let's say that Bryce Young is in this game, I agree that Andy Dalton played poor, and I believe that Bryce Young would have played much better. I still don't think that this is a close game. I think maybe let's say the Tedero McMillan play. I think they probably get a touchdown there instead of missing a field goal.
Well, now it's 19-10.
Well, now it's 19. But
right.
I still don't think that Bryce Young makes enough plays, especially with how good that the defense was playing. It's definitely not 40-9. It's maybe 33-17,
yeah.
Something like that. It's still, I think it's still a big win. But I do agree that Andy Dalton was just like any time that there was like, okay, Carolina could potentially do something here to at least show that they have something working, Andy Dalton threw it out the window.
Right. And then on top of that, the way this game played out, just in terms of the stupid stuff that happens, most of it seemed to lean Buffalo's way. I mean,
yes.
the A.J. Epinesa interception is an awesome play and a play that he just dominates. I posted on X right after it happened. If they ever made a Hall of Fame up for covering the flat pass, A.J. Epinesa would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, that guy owns that play.
Give some respect to Shaq Thompson, too, for completely knowing what the play was, calling it out. And yeah, Epinesa made the play, but Shaq was there ready to call it out.
All right, we're going to continue this conversation in a minute, but Sean McDermott has come to the podium.
And, I mean, the process is the process, and the preparation piece had to be where it needed to be. And players did a phenomenal job, as I said, the coaches, the leadership group, phenomenal job getting out in front of our team and leading. And the preparation piece, as I said before, is why we got the results we got today. So O-line and D-line, you know, the run game obviously offensively, and then trying to take away their run game defensively to where it starts up front. James Cook, another big day. Doesn't happen without wide receivers, tight ends blocking down the field. I want to make sure I mention that and praise that part of our effort. Different attitude, different energy, finishing plays. Really was more how, in terms of how we do things. So, and then the takeaways on defense were big. So, good team effort, and the time is yours. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I know the value of being a two-dimensional offense, and, you know, I love the run game. I don't think I've ever said that. I do value physical football, and it starts up front, whether you're throwing it or you're running it. So I will say that I love physical football. So that's where the game starts, and our front did a great job today. Yes, 200-plus yards. But there was an attitude that came with that, right? So he breaks through into the second level of the defense. You got wide receivers, tight ends blocking, and he's of this mindset. He's going. And that's, again, that's a collective mindset.
Do you have an update on that?
And I thought Coach Cromer did a phenomenal job dialing up the runs that he did and putting it together. Great job.
Update on that all?
No, I don't have anything at this point.
Sean, when did you make the decision that Max was going to be ready to play? And from what you've seen, what did you think of the way he
Yeah, just through the week, it was just more of a, this would be ideal if we could get it there, but understanding, again, where he was coming from and the time that he missed, just like I said during the week. So just wanting to be patient, and it's hard when you want him out there, but we owe that to the person, to the player. And I thought he came in today and did some good things. A big hit on the sideline. Yeah.
How much of a spark was Michael for you?
Yeah, good to have him. It really is. He's a tone setter for us. And, you know, he walked in, I think we talked Monday or so, and, I mean, he's just great. He's a leader in his own way, and even though he's only been here just now one game, in theory, and he understands how the game's played. So just a guy that we can add up front for us, and gives us an edge.
Also the decision on Jordan Hancock to get him involved. It looked like most of the passing downs you wanted him out there. Just can you take us to the strategy or philosophy of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably not anything specific other than getting him going, and you know, he's a young player that's played nickel and safety both for us, so just getting him going a little bit and seeing what he can do, and thought he had a really good week. And I mean, these young players are going to make some mistakes, but the way that they practice, the way that they prepare, that's part of them learning how you do things. And then the veteran players helping them as well is important for us.
John, you mentioned did you have a conversation with Michael on Monday?
I can't remember exactly, but
Was there a conversation with him, or did he come in and maybe say something?
no, we just talked. Yeah, I mean, Monday we had that kind of practice deal, and then I think I grabbed him off the field and just said, "Hey, here's some things I'm thinking about," and he was like, "Yeah, hey, I'm with you, whatever you want." Again, a player coming off of not having played similar to Max, but obviously a more veteran player, felt more confident that he'd be ready to go. But again, wanted to everything in moderation approach with Larry, with Michael, with Max. So I don't know the final rep counts on those in terms of how it turned out, but that was the goal.
You mentioned finishing plays. Is Greg forcing that fumble?
Huge. Yeah. I mean, when Greg plays nasty football, man, he's really good. And then our defense goes up a level. So that was a big-time play right before the half there, and obviously then the half, the field goal that was missed. So big-time swing and momentum for sure. And then we get the ball after half, so that was huge.
But a lot of fans observed on the broadcast that it appeared like you were maybe calling the defense. Were you? And if so, what went into it?
Bobby and I have done it together. We really have, and that'll continue. So Bobby's a great coach. We've done it together, and we'll continue to do it together. Luck. It's a luck. I mean, I don't ask the play. I don't know. I'd like to if I knew that I'd do that every game. But yeah, it's Lord's will, I guess. You know.
What was your thinking regarding Terrell Bernard dressing him but then not playing him?
Yeah, just kind of where we were and trying to get him freshened up. It wasn't at all. It was more medically where he was versus anything to do with him not performing it or anything like that. This was my decision only, and just felt like we needed to get him freshened up a little bit. And, and then the linebacking room overall had some, can they play, can they not play? And it came down to the wire there on who was going to be kind of the four we dressed and those that we didn't. And some of that was medically as well. So it kind of forced our hand a little bit too.
Could he have been ready like in an emergency? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, if we that was kind of the deal. If we had to get him in there, so we got some guys nursing some injuries.
Sean, the first half, obviously James is doing what he's doing, 200+ yards on the day. The passing game, though, especially in the first two quarters, was maybe a little slow to come around. Was there anything that you saw that was leading to that?
Just looked like we were just a little bit out of rhythm a little bit, and then I thought Josh really caught fire after that, and. The value of a competitor at a high level to be able to do that is impressive, right? Josh is wired that way, and it was good to really see him come out after half and really get into a rhythm. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Sean McDermott speaking to the media, and all right, let's talk about the thing that you and I are just looking at each other about. Apparently, Sean McDermott has said that he and Bobby Babich have been calling the defense together
for a while.
They did. I know he said together. I'm trying to listen to the quote again in my head.
He said they have been calling together. He did say for a while.
Yeah.
And then he said, and that's going to continue.
Yes. So, all right, if he is actually making play calls during the game individually or overruling Bobby Babich making play calls during the game, which is possibly what this means, that is a huge change in what we've thought the Bills are doing defensively. If he's saying that as if, look, we have a conversation on Thursday about what I want to do on Sunday, and here's, if we're in 3rd and long, I want to do this, and then, if they're getting their receiver number 4, out wide, and we want to, those things are what every coach and their coordinators go through during the week.
Well, the reason that he was asked was because the reporter that it's tough to hear some of the questions that the reporters ask on those press conferences, but I believe what they asked was some of the fans were watching the broadcast and saw that it looked like you were making defensive play calls. So the question was about, it wasn't like, do you guys work together on the defense? Obviously they do. The question was specific to, on the field, are you calling plays? And it looks like, and I agree, it kind of looks like he is at times. Now that I go back and I think about it a little bit, it kind of seems like he does at times. So it almost seems like, to your point, like, yeah, I'm sure they're talking about like, hey, I'm 3rd and long, or on this, or I want this in this situation. But it almost seems like maybe McDermott set it up as they're working together. Who knows what that means? That could mean that he's overruling Babich. It could also mean that he's making suggestions, and he's like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. how do you feel? We know that McDermott is a defensive-minded coach, so this isn't like a huge surprise, but it's definitely different than what we originally thought.
The part of it that he's doing it is not a huge surprise. The part of it that it's been asked a couple times already. It was asked a couple Mondays ago. I think it was asked the Monday after the Falcons game, I believe, if he would consider taking over play calling, and he basically dismissed it and said, no, that's not what we're doing. But what he's just said here is that apparently he's been doing it all along.
Yeah.
Or at least certainly the door is open to that discussion. It was a vague enough answer that we're not sure how much of the play calling Sean McDermott is responsible for right now. Again, as the head coach, the buck stops with him. And I remember before Bobby Babbich's first game, one of the things that I asked Sean McDermott was, hey, how do you sit on the field if you're looking at like 3rd and 5 and you hear on your headset that Bobby Babbich is calling defense X and you're thinking in your head, that's not what I would call. How do you manage that? And he talked about growth and all that stuff, and that was before week 1 last year. Now we're in week 8 of year 2 of Bobby Babich. And all along, Sean McDermott has never intimated that he has been a part of the play calling. But now all of a sudden he is. Now, it's not bad or good. Certainly worked out well today. 49 would say it was okay, right? But it is not what he has been telling us has been going on until now. And look, I mean, again, I don't think it's a good or bad thing. I'm just kind of blown away that he just casually dropped this in after a 49 press conference, and maybe this was strategic. I'm going to wait until we're up 31, and then I'm going to tell everybody what we're doing. But it is surprising that this is apparently where the Bills are at.
Yeah, if you tell reporters that after the Falcons loss, you're going to get a lot of negative,
right.
Like, what are you doing? Why is that happening? So it's your fault then.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree that after a game like today, it looks a little bit better saying that. And yeah, I agree that it's not a good thing or a bad thing. I would prefer that if they're working together, 2 heads are better than 1. So if Babich is like, oh, I'm seeing this, and McDermott's like, no, I'm seeing this, and they're working together, I would prefer that, because that most of the time I feel like would come up with the better play call.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying with that. I would say that in the heat of the battle, next week, if it's 27-24 and Patrick Mahomes has got 3rd and 4 and hurry up, and they're arguing about what call to make, that's not how you want to run a team.
Good,
exactly. No. So yes, I think there is some benefit to having 2 good defensive minds kind of managing the game, but most teams don't do it for exactly the reason I just brought up. So the Bills can go this route, and it can work. But like I said, there's a lot of reasons why teams don't do it. And the thing that I'm more taken aback by is that this is all of a sudden a combo effort on defense, seemingly play to play. And this has not been indicated before. And look, I don't dismiss what you're saying about Sean McDermott can help, and he knows what he's doing, but
it can get messy
easily. And not only can, it will get messy is what the answer to that is. So Sean McDermott can call plays. Like, there are a number of coordinators, a number of head coaches, mostly offensive, who have a coordinator, but they still call the plays. You can do it defensively. Sean McDermott has done it. He's pretty good at it. He did it the year before Bobby Babich was the coordinator. So there's nothing wrong with Sean McDermott calling plays. But I guess when we ask, I think the reasonable thing to do is just explain what's going on.
I'm sure when they talk again tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, we are 100% going to ask about this again.
Question, and I guess we'll see. I'm interested to see if he gives more of a vague answer or if he does dive into exactly what the situation is.
No, the Bills will have 24 hours to get them ready for that, basically. All right, we can come back to that a little bit. Once again, look, you're watching Rochester First. If you want to comment on the game and get involved in this conversation, go to the WRLC Facebook page, and we got some comments there. I see Connie Duff talked about lots of injuries to the Panthers, but the Bills back in the win column. Nice to see. Panthers injuries were certainly a part of this, but I don't think, Panthers injuries were, certainly the changing how this game went. What else we got here on the Facebook page real quick? Anything else? That is, I got to make sure it's PG too, by the way. Someone didn't like the game being on because it was boring. It was a blowout, but and Maura Sykes talked about 80% Bills fans in the stands. I don't know if it was 80%.
There were a good amount. Oh, yeah. The broadcast was making sure that everyone knew that at home, too. Yes. There were a good amount of fans there.
The radio broadcast, I listened to the first little bit of the first quarter on the radio, and right on the opening kickoff, hey, it's going to be almost like a home game today. I mean, Charlotte is one of those cities where people joke that no one's from there. Everyone just moves there. So when the Bills come to town, with as good as the team is and as good as this fan base travels, that's what you're going to get. So if you want to be a part of the conversation, go on over to the News 8 Facebook page. You can contribute there. Caleb and I will talk about it. We're going to go until 5 o'clock tonight, and then we are back to work on News 8, wrapping this up, putting together all the different interviews. We'll have stuff in the locker room as well. All right, Caleb, we talked a little bit about the offense, kind of how the game went, and then obviously the defensive play calling thing, which will be a topic for a while. I do want to hit on some of the guys defensively, that there were a number of them that at the very least statistically had a good day. So I'll give you the floor here. Which of these guys, I don't think any one of them you want to stands out individually. Who do you want to start with here?
Let's start with Epinesa.
Yeah.
I thought he made probably one of the biggest plays, one of the best plays of the game. Defensively, one of the best plays of the game. That interception, we were talking about it right before we went into McDermott. The broadcast kind of looked at it a little bit. Shaq Thompson saw the play, called it out, and then Epinesa just jumped it and made it. And that's another one where I'm kind of surprised that Dalton threw it. Like, as good of a play as it was by Epinesa, it's another one where I looked at it, I was like, he was there before you threw it. Like, it wasn't like he jumped in front of it. He was standing there, and then he jumped up and made the interception. But either way, I was a little upset that he didn't get into the end zone. As much as I love Josh Allen, and as much as I'm sure fantasy managers are screaming at me right now saying, no,
right,
Josh Allen needs that touchdown, I kind of wanted to see him get into the end zone.
The thing about the play from the Dalton point of view is that the quarterback's job there is to get the ball around the defensive end. He's probably going to be unblocked. And the thing is, if you do get around him, a lot of the time it's kind of out the gate. That's exactly how that play is supposed to work. That said, you're right. AJ Epinesa was there. He had it covered. That's one where you probably got to throw it in the dirt and live to fight another day. Epinesa, for even knowing the play call or whatever information Shaq Thompson gave him to give him a heads up, he still is so good at timing the throw, getting up, knocking it down, and just taking that play away. He does it all the time. Now, the fact it turned into a near pick six was a little fortunate because the dude then Pele'd the thing back up in the air and just ended up in exactly the right spot.
And broke Dalton's ankles pretty bad.
Yeah,
too.
basically.
Dalton.
Yeah. I don't know how much those ankles flex at this point anyway.
Probably not much,
at 37 years old.
They're still broken ankles.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter
right.
whose they are.
But, this was another part of the game to me where I was kind of, rolling my eyes at the 49 to score. That's a great play by Epinesa. But the interception part of it is ridiculously lucky. The, fumble later on that bounced right to Deion Walker. This was a game where all the fumbles went Buffalo's way, I think. I'd have to look back at it again. But there were a number of plays where, yes, the defense made good plays, but then it became a turnover because of something ridiculous. So, however, that is still A.J. Epinesa's wheelhouse, taking that play away, and he does it again today. The guy I want to talk about a little bit here is Joey Bosa. I think he had a pretty solid day. And, going back to Andy Dalton again, what kind of quarterback he is and how this played into Buffalo's benefit. What the Bills have done very well this year, and Bosa better than anybody, is being able to get pressure on the quarterback by closing the pocket. Like, you haven't seen many times where 97 is running scot-free because he embarrassed the tackle. It happens. No, it has happened a number of times. But most of the time his rush is, I'm going to drive a guy and I'm going to close the pocket. Well, against, Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson, even Spencer Rattler, you're going to get that guy off his spot, which is a win for the defensive lineman, but then he's going to go out and scramble somewhere else. In this game, Andy Dalton turtled over and over and over. And hey, that strategy worked plenty, and you get sacks, and you earn them because you have to get the pressure. But Andy Dalton clearly wanted no part of, man, there's a defensive lineman right here. I'm just done. I think the first Bosa sack, I don't know if Bosa touched him until he was on the ground. Now the pressure was there. And I like the fact the Bills are getting that out of Joey Bosa. And I'm encouraged. Michael Hoyt's in the game. I thought Bosa was a little more active, something that I thought the Bills might get because Hoyt should be able to play early downs a little more, Bosa a little more later downs. We'll see later if that was exactly the case. But Joey Bosa had a nice day today. And I think not coincidentally with Michael Hoyt in the game.
Was the Bosa sack, was that the one where it hit the running back's arm and then...
That was his other one, I think.
I don't know if they counted that one then, because I think he only has one sack in the stat sheet right now. I don't know if they ended up counting that one as an actual sack. I think they just called it as...
You're right. Let me look here.
I think they just ended up counting it
You talk about Joey Bosa for a second. Let me see what we get here.
Like you said, though...
Oh, no, hold on. So they did count that one because remember, right after that... right after that is the Coker play. Yes, no, not right after that, but 2 plays later. So the one that I talked about, they counted.
Yeah.
And then 2 plays later, he got the tripping penalty.
Yes,
Right.
That one was unfortunate too.
Right.
I mean, he stuck his leg out obviously, but you could see as soon as it happened that he was like, "No, why did I do that?" It
Right,
was almost
right.
like it was like just an instant, like a twitch reaction type of thing. He should have had him on that one. Honestly, he should have been able to. I thought he could have made a move to get out there and get him.
Maybe, but this is what I'm talking about. Like Joey Bosa has been good at getting close to the quarterback,
Yes.
and so has Greg Rousseau. Ed Oliver's been a little better at actually sacking the quarterback. But in this game, close to the quarterback was good enough because Andy Dalton was going to roll over for you. On that one, he committed a penalty and on a play where Dalton actually was going to scramble. Unique play. But as good as Bosa played, again, I think Andy Dalton and the way he operated in the pocket in this game was a huge benefit. It fit perfectly what the Bills have been doing defensively rushing the passer.
Yeah, he was just absolutely bull rushing them. And then you also mentioned Michael Hoyt. I thought he had a great day. Like we talked a little bit, I believe it was either Wednesday or Thursday, we talked a little bit about them coming in, and I believe it was Deion Dawkins that was talking about them and like the spark, and he did just that. Obviously, Ed Oliver was out for much of this game, but I thought Michael Hoyt, even without Ed Oliver there, kind of elevated the defensive line. Obviously, he had that forced fumble late in the game that at that point the game was pretty much over, so that one doesn't really matter. But you look at the first sack that Ed Oliver had in that game, Michael Hoyt bull rushed and had 2 defenders on him, and it was just one-on-one. Ed Oliver one-on-one, and if you don't double Oliver, he's probably going to beat whoever is on him, and that's what he did, just threw the guy to the ground and got the sack on the opening play. Not the opening play, but got his sack of the game. And that was, obviously, that's Ed Oliver being the monster that Ed Oliver is, but that's also Michael Hoyt making a play. So although Hoyt ended with a sack and a half, I think he had a forced fumble, I believe he added a tackle for loss, he did a lot that did not show up on the stat sheet as well.
And that's exactly what the Bills were expecting to get out of Hoyt, too. He was supposed to be that guy, be versatile on defense, and do exactly what he did there. Be a guy that offenses have to account for to open things up for everybody else. I mean, that is 100% what the game plan with Hoyt was. And I did love it that I was kind of laughing listening to it on the radio right off the bat. First third down, there's Michael Hoyt drawing protection so that one of the stars on the defensive line can make a play. And that's what you want to get out of him this year. So on top of that, and then he contributes himself, like you said, with a sack and a half later in the game. So what you were hoping to get out of Michael Hoyt, that box got checked in this game,
and
100%. And then some, for sure. Let's talk about Max Hairston a little bit. Okay. Makes his debut. Mm-hmm. Look, the game was weird, so it's hard to really assess what he did. I think most of the secondary, Jordan Hancock for that matter too, kind of making his debut in terms of a extensive defensive role. The secondary in general was fine enough. I don't know if it was good or bad because weird stuff was happening everywhere else. But Max Hairston's included in this. Had a couple tackles, looked okay. Certainly was not a liability in his first game with 1 week of practice, all season leading into it.
Yeah, the secondary also wasn't really pressured very much. There were a couple complete passes to McMillan. A lot of the plays kind of came in garbage time. Most of the passing yards. Dalton ended with 175. There it is.
Yeah.
He ended with 175. So not very much pressure, but I agree that there were no plays where I was like, ooh, Maxwell messed that up. That was a bad play by Maxwell. And honestly, there weren't that many plays like that for the secondary at all. Trey White's kind of been the guy that we've been saying that about a lot lately, and I thought he looked okay. There weren't really any big problems with him. But just talking about Maxwell, he had that good tackle. He read it well. He made the tackle. I mean, it's a play that you want. It's a play that he should make. He's a NFL level player, cornerback. He should be making that play. But just to see it happen, first game back, off the injury, kind of a little spark of hope that okay, the kid could be something.
It helps certainly your secondary when your defensive line has 7 sacks and your offense scores 40 points in the first 3 quarters. Those things will make it easier to play defense down the field. Ted McMillan ended up with 7 for 99. I needed 100 for one of my other fantasy teams, so it's going to be frustrating also. But look, I think he was 4 for 62 at halftime, so he was a factor, but not the end of the world. And if you said it yourself, there weren't that play is just going to kill us kind of thing. If the Bills can get that out of what they have in the secondary right now with Taylor Rapp on injured reserve, with Max Hairston now with all of 1 game of experience, with Jordan Hancock with all of 1 game of experience, if you can go through next week with the Chiefs and have a whole 60 minutes again where there was really nothing that I hated, I think the Bills would take that.
But nothing I hated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know if we got more than that in this game, but certainly they played well enough. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there weren't any. Obviously, the only interception was by a defensive lineman, and like not too much pressure. There were a couple plays where there was good coverage. There were a couple plays where I think Cole Bishop got beat a couple times, which we've kind of continued to say week in and week out. But other than that, I think he was probably the only one that I would point to in the secondary that didn't have a okay day. You know, I don't think anyone had a great day, but to your point, as long as everyone's having an okay day, you go up against the Chiefs. If the defensive line continues to play as they do, if James Cook continues to run this offense, and if Josh Allen can just get something going with some of these playmakers, the secondary only needs to have an okay day. Now, obviously, if Christian Benford can become a lockdown corner, if Maxwell Hairston can really grow this season and become a really good guy, or if some of these safeties, if Cole Bishop can finally figure it out, if they can have great days, that's going to be awesome. But as long as they can just, as a unit, have an okay day, the Bills should be fine in most games.
All right, we're going to close this show out here momentarily. But before we go, Caleb, give you a few seconds here. Give me your final thoughts, where the Bills are, and kind of looking forward to where they're going from here. Obviously, the Chiefs in the immediate horizon, but a lot more season to go after this week.
I completely agree with everything that you've said about how, like, you're maybe not more confident coming out this game, but I am pleased with the fact that they got the job done. You know, like we talked a lot about they struggled in those against the Saints and the Dolphins, and we talked a lot about the negatives, but then we were always like, oh, but they're 4-0. Well, but then they continue to struggle and they lost 2 games. So we saw how bad this Bills team can be, and we saw what happens when they're that bad. I thought they were a lot better this week. There's still stuff to clean up. There's always going to be stuff to clean up, especially going up against the Chiefs next week. You're going to need a much better week if you're going to beat that team. But I feel more confident in them beating the Chiefs after this game than I did after the Falcons.
I'm not sure I'm going to go quite to there because the things that I didn't like out of this game, but I like the fact that you got a number of new guys in, Max Hairston, Michael Hoyt. You played a whole different defense in a lot of ways. Sean McDermott talked about how Terrell Bernard was essentially a healthy scratch, even though he wasn't officially inactive. You did all that, and your defense only gave up 9 points on the road and forced 3 turnovers and got 7 sacks. Now, were the circumstances of some of those plays a little wonky? Maybe. But regardless, you have to feel better about all these different pieces that you're going to have to run. You're going to have to now run out the rest of the year, especially with Ed Oliver potentially not coming back at all. You've got to be encouraged about that. All that said, I think we went into this game thinking this was kind of a little bit of a litmus test for the Bills. Are they really still a championship contending team? The score says yes. The eye test to me says, I'm not sure yet. The eye test to me says they did good things. They didn't make it worse. That's for sure. Number one. And the James Cook is still awesome. And maybe Sean McDermott is calling plays now and that potentially look better. The bottom line is I don't think we know what this Bills team is, which is probably appropriate for week 8. But if you're going to walk away from 40-9 and think everything's great, I'm going to say you're wrong. If you're going to walk away from 40-9 and dismiss it, I'm going to also say you're wrong. I think I'm going to walk away from this saying, let me see what happens against the Chiefs, because that'll be much more of the litmus test than what we got today. All right, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. That's going to wrap it up for me and Caleb. Again, check us out on News 8 and over on RochesterFirst.com. We got a whole lot more coming up later on tonight on this channel and on News 8, the original. For Caleb Carr, I'm Thad Brown. Thanks again very much for watching Buffalo Game Day Recap. We will see you again on Monday, wrapping up what will be an interesting press conference as Sean McDermott talks a little more, most likely, about what exactly is going on with the defense. This is Rochester First. We will see you again on Monday.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.